This encore presentation of Disclosure is brought to you by your friends at the Voice of Prophecy. Enjoy!
And we are back with one more earth-shattering stellar moment in the history of radio broadcasting. My name is Shawn Boonstra. I am going to be your guide, your host, your beacon of light for the next... I see you raising your eyebrows at me. Come on. I'm trying to impress upon people how important this program is.
Good.
Yeah, for the next 58 minutes or so, I will be your guide, unless, of course, you reach out and change the dial or stop the podcast. And if you do that, I will have spent the next hour in front of this microphone completely in vain because you are my entire audience, you one person reaching for the dial. You're the only person listening today. So you can't do it because you will wound me. You will wound my feelings. You will wound Jean's feelings.
Definitely.
Because she's here co-hosting with me. The lovely and talented Miss Jean from Discovery Mountain. I do find you lovely and talented.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You're a little biased.
Yeah, I should admit to the listening world that I've been carrying on with Miss Jean for about 30 years. And yeah. Asked you out on a date. It's 30 years since I asked you out on a first date. Do you remember where we went? Do you remember where we went for our first date?
Of course. How
Where?
could I ever forget that? We went for Chinese food at Ming's in Victoria, BC, and then we went for a walk on the Breakwater Wall.
That is correct. And I
Yes.
dared to hold your hand.
Yes, you did. You were very
I was romantic once upon a time, but now that I've landed you, the romance evaporated, right?
pretty much.
No,
yeah.
I'm a romantic guy. I'm pretty good. For a Dutch guy, Dutch guys aren't romantic. We're blunt. But there's such a thing as blunt romanticism.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
a whole new category.
Yeah, hey, babe, you're hot. See? That's something like that. Joining me in studio, Miss Jean from Discovery Mountain, who's also Mrs. Boonstra.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
And your maiden name was Pepper.
Pepper.
Yeah, you gave up a nice, normal last name for Boonstra, which is an ethnic name.
Yeah, it's all right. Our kids learned how to spell our name really young because they heard me spelling it all the time on the phone whenever I was on the phone with someone. And so
Oh, so you would spell before you said it?
I almost always say Boonstra, and then I automatically, before they ask, B-O-O-N. And so our kids learned there because they heard
learned to
me
spell it right
say it
away.
all the time.
There are parts of this world where it's a fairly common name.
I
I
believe
was
you.
actually in the Netherlands a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you were.
Driving up the freeway, and there came Boonstra Trucking down the road.
Oh,
and
cool.
There are big trucks with the name Boonstra on it. And I believe the CEO of Philips at one point was a Boonstra. I don't know if that's a positive association or not. I don't know how he did. I like Philips. I mean, they make nice
Yeah.
things and so on. But anyway, you are also Miss Jean from Discovery Mountain. And this past summer, you spent time in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. You know what I'm tempted to say is Oshkosh, Wisconsin, because
Just blur it all together.
yeah, blur it all
blend
together.
all.
Why were you in Oshkosh? I know I've asked you this on other episodes, but why were you there?
Well, I was not there alone, not even close. It was myself and 6 other of our colleagues, but we were there amongst 57,000 people for the international.
No, thank you. 57,000 people.
Several people asked me, Shawn, here?"
And
I
one
said,
outhouse.
No.
One outhouse for 57,000 people.
A few more, but there were lines for the outhouses, definitely. But we were there for the International Pathfinder Camporee. And Discovery Mountain, of course, is our program for kids. We call it our audio adventure for kids. It's a Bible-based program. And we had a fun booth there where we had a flight simulator set up to fly.
Why would you have a flight simulator?
Well, because in Discovery Mountain, there's a plane called Blue Birdie. It's a de Havilland Beaver plane. And this plane kind of is like a character in the program. And so the flight simulator allowed the kids to fly Blue Birdie. It was really neat. And in the program, Jake Donovan is the main character, and he's one of the pilots.
He might be sitting in the control room right now.
Yeah, a.k.a.
But he's not even
Ruben.
paying attention. He's talking to other people. Look at that. Look at that. Our entire team is staring out the other direction instead of actually listening to this riveting discussion.
They're doing a good job.
All right. So Jake Donovan back on the controls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
You almost got fired, man. Except we need your character. Yeah.
you can't fire Jake. Come on.
No. All right. So
What
57,000 kids.
Yes.
Jake Donovan.
No, 57,000 people.
Okay.
So not all kids. There were leaders too, but
Oh gosh. So it
was
wasn't
a huge
57,000
event.
untethered children.
No. Oh, that sounds scary. But we had fun. We had the flight simulator. We had a great booth, but honestly, the best part of that event for me was listening. meeting the kids who listen to Discovery Mountain. And Shawn, I had one little boy talking to me, and he was telling me all his favorite things about Discovery Mountain. Then he said to me, and I listen to Disclosure too. So
what a brave
he might
kid.
be listening right now. So I'll say, hi, thanks for listening.
What was his name?
I don't remember.
You didn't get his name.
I talked to so many kids.
Miss Jean, that is terrible.
I know.
That is terrible. But if you are the young man who said that, my wife apologizes deeply. I would not forget your name.
Sure.
No, I know who you are. I can picture you listening to the radio right now. Young man, inflicting yourself with my opinion.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so meeting all these kids from all over and from all over the world.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. People from all over the world were there. It was an international event. And of course, the favorite memories I've brought home are of the kids we got to know. There was one little boy, Caleb. His parents were running another booth, and he knows Discovery Mountain. He knows some of us a little. He came over and hung out with us. And on the last night, he was teasing us, and we were having so much fun. We were laughing
Look at you light up.
hysterically.
You want another baby now, don't you?
No.
No, we're going to talk about that
No,
today, actually.
that window is closed.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but it was amazing. And then we had a young man named Andy who has wanted to audition for Discovery Mountain forever. And we did do a virtual or a Skype audition with him a while back, and he was really good. But he lives in New Jersey. But he was at this event, and so we went out of our way to find a place to record. We recorded him and another young man, and these guys were awesome. So it was really fun, not just to meet listeners. We got some practical recording done. It was a great event.
Good. So actually, that you raise an important point. And where our point today really isn't Discovery Mountain, but that show's staffed pretty much by volunteers, correct? All the voice actors and so on. I mean, nobody is a paid professional actor.
Nobody is a professional in the sense of that's all they do is they're an actor.
Right. I think we have some people that have a background in it.
Yeah, we do.
That are helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but mostly the people that do the voices, they either work here at the Voice of Prophecy, or they are people we know in our community who we have found their natural talent and have, cultivated that. And
Like Jake Donovan.
Who's
the producer for this program.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Spinning
so
the dials, moving the knobs. Yeah. Yeah. And not paying attention again. Look at that. He's having a side conversation as we're talking. There he is. He's out and he's eating. He's eating on the job.
Is he eating trail mix?
He's eating trail mix.
Yay!
All right. So if that's new to you out there, Discovery Mountain is the Voice of Prophecy's broadcast for kids, and it is a radio adventure. You are about to produce audio adventure. Yeah, because look at me.
Podcast,
Look at the old man
primarily.
say it's radio.
Yeah.
I still have a shortwave radio by the bed, so I'm still the old man. Yeah, I know.
But you can listen right on the website, any podcast platform, we're there.
Good.
Any of the big ones.
DiscoveryMountain.com. You can go there to find it. You can find it on Apple and Google and
iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Spotify.
Spotify.
We're there.
We're on Spotify?
Yes.
Oh, man. Look at that. I didn't even know that.
Spotify. Absolutely.
Yeah, remember a few shows ago I called it Spatify. I think that would be the perfect place to record debates is on Spatify.
I love it.
I'm booked. Hey, somebody look up that domain and see if Spatify.com is taken. We got to grab that before the... Okay, so Discovery Mountain. Probably time to get to our actual topic for today.
Sounds
but
good.
I know you came home really excited, and what God has done with Discovery Mountain is mind-blowing. I know a lot of Christian parents in particular appreciate it because it's getting harder and harder and harder to actually find content for your kids that honors God, is faithful to the Bible, and yet is still fun. And I know you're very careful. You told me the other day that when you are writing these, and you write these episodes, you write the stories.
I've had some minis written by other people, but yes, I write all those.
Yeah, you write it, and I know that you're careful. So you bring life to a story, but you shared something interesting with me in the car the other day, is that you will not put words in a Bible character's mouth that aren't actually in the Bible. Is that right?
Other than maybe like a little bit of transition, like the and pauses and ohs, ums, and ahs. I try very, very carefully to the main Bible characters. They only say what Scripture records, and then if we have to kind of add some dialogue or some scenarios to make the story come to life, what I do is I create a fictitious character, and that character is like on the sidelines of Peter and the sidelines.
So what
of
made
Jesus.
you decide to go that way? Why do you do that?
Well, it's because I wanted to be faithful to the Bible, and I had a very specific thing happen with one of our daughter's friends was at our house one day, and they shared that when they were a kid, they were at church school, Sunday school, Sabbath school, and someone was asking who were Daniel's friends, and this kid raised their hand, and they said Rack, Shack, and Benny, which a popular kids program has turned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
VeggieTales?
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but you just said it.
I said it, yeah.
They created this fictitious scenario where these guys are Rack, Shack, and Benny. And the teacher of this class corrected this child, and the kid was mortified. They were like, I thought I was learning about the Bible. And they were mortified that they actually thought...
No slam on VeggieTales, by the way.
Our kids
watch
loved
VeggieTales. That's not the point.
Yeah, they had fun.
I'm just trying to discern why you took that
So
path.
I wanted to be faithful so that when these kids are listening to these Bible stories, and we know listeners, they tell us this all the time, they listen to these stories over and over and over and over again, that what they think Peter said in the parable of the lost sower, not the lost sower, the parable of the sower, that those are the words that are in Scripture. So when they're ingrained in their minds, that they are actually Scripture. It's not
Learning
something
Scripture.
that came out of my brain. It's from the
kids
Scripture.
will pick it up really quickly. They
Right.
really will.
Yeah.
So I admire that. And probably time to, this is kind of related because our topic today is parenting. It's kind of related to the way we started the show. I think I'm going to title this Parenting. You guys paying attention in the control booth because this is the title of today's show. Parenting, the Agony and the Ecstasy. I may have stolen that from an old movie. I may have.
Yeah, may have, just a chance.
Yeah, and I wanted to do this today because you and I are just hitting the end of the road when it comes to actually raising children.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, I know, there we are. Our oldest is a junior at college right now.
Yeah,
Third
she
year. Yep. Communications major. Weird. Yeah. So she's gone most of the year. 8 months of the year she's not around. Our youngest is a senior in high school, so she's about to flee the coop. Look at you get sad. No, we're about to have an empty nest. That's not all bad. Empty nest has got its ups.
I know.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I
So
agree.
I thought here's what we would do today. We would have a bit of a retrospective assessment of the last 20 years. How did we do
Wow.
as parents? We're
In
gonna
1 hour.
Yeah, we're going to take inventory of our talents as parents, evaluate how we did, from a completely unbiased standpoint. I know that we happen to be the most wonderful parents in the history of the human race.
Yeah.
However, I want to evaluate what we've learned because we talk about it. We've talked about it for 20 years. And how did we grew kids, but did our kids grow us? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break here in a moment. But right after the break, I'll kick the ball down the field on parenting, the agony, and the ecstasy. I'll kick the ball down the field with this magnificent list of questions that I brought in the studio. I dreamed these all up. I think everybody will be floored by these questions.
Oh, definitely.
Hey, if you're raising kids, or maybe you're done raising kids, or your grandparents, the grandparents are going to shake their heads going, man, we tried to tell you
Yeah.
that you would learn this, and wait till you see what comes next. But I want to explore it. I think it's good. Paul says take inventory, essentially. Take account of yourself. And I'd like to see what did I learn at the end? And what did I learn about God? And what did being a father teach me? And where did I mess up? Where could I spare a young parent some of the awful things I did to traumatize our children? I mean, I didn't really traumatize them.
I hope not.
No,
I don't
I
think you
didn't.
did.
But we'll talk about the regrets, too.
Sure.
That's why I say the agony ecstasy. It's both. You can't parent and not hit highs and lows along the way.
That is very true.
Yeah, so
Very true.
that's our topic. I want you to grab paper and pen so you can write stuff down and also write down stuff about this amazing offer from VOP. And I'll be right back.
Retirement planning can be a stressful process, but it doesn't have to be. The friendly people at the Voice of Prophecy can walk you through the entire process and explain all of your options based on your specific needs. Whether you'd like to set up a trust for income or make a gift that will benefit your loved ones and change lives through the Voice of Prophecy, we're here to help. To learn more, call 1-800-348-5993.
All around us, the world is changing. Homes are being lost. Lives are being threatened. And some people are asking the question, does God even care about me? The Bible answers that question, and what it says is very encouraging. Find out what God says regarding this topic and some of life's greatest issues in our free Discover Bible guides. You can get yours by going to VOP.com, click on Study, or call us at 888-456-7933. 888-456-7933. And the sound of the music means, Jean, it is time to wake up from your nap.
Oh,
You
you
got
really
in an-
think I could nap in 30 seconds?
I don't know. I don't
For a
know.
minute?
I can't. I can't even sleep in a bed, so I don't. Did you notice that Ruben, the producer, fired himself in the break?
Yeah, in the,
You know,
in
he
the
made
break
a-
he said,
he
I
made
know
a
what to
slip
do, I'm fired.
Yeah, I'm fired. I'll go upstairs and fire myself. Our topic today, you are listening to Disclosure. Talk radio from the Voice of Prophecy. My name is Shawn Boonstra. Our topic today, I promised before the break, would be parenting,
Parenting.
I have to pronounce, because it's radio, you actually have to pronounce the punctuation.
Punctuation.
Yeah. Parenting, the agony, and the ecstasy, period. That's the title.
Dramatic.
All right, let's talk about parenting. We have hit almost the end of the road, although I've been advised that you never stop, that you
No.
never stop at least worrying
Just
about your
changes.
kids. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's rewind the tape 20 years.
Okay.
All right. Did you always know you wanted to have kids and start a family?
Yes and no. Growing up, I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My next sibling is my sister, and then my little brother is 7 years younger. So I remember my little brother being born and loving him instantly and
You
wanting
didn't try
to.
and paint his face and scratch him?
No, not
the
at
usual,
all.
give him a haircut.
No. I wanted to change his diapers, and at one point,
Get out.
Oh yeah, until he peed on me, and then that fixed that. But I don't remember this, but I remember my mom telling me one day she couldn't find me or Doug, my brother, and she went looking around the house for us. And my sister and I had bunk beds, and I was on the top bunk, and I had taken him up on the top bunk with me, and my mom was like, "Oh, honey, just
How'd you get the
hand
baby
me
up
the
to-
baby."
How did you get the baby up to the top
I
bunk?
have no idea. I don't remember.
Put a rope
it.
around his leg and hauled him up?
I don't know. It's a little terrifying. But so I loved my
Babies
brother.
are resounding. They were so resilient.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
yes. So I really love my brother, and but my sister. I wasn't the kind of little girl who played with dolls or any of that, and my sister was. She was very maternal right from the beginning, and so. I didn't necessarily obsess about it when I was young, like my sister Laura did, but I always knew I wanted to have kids. I also always knew I wanted to have some sort of a career. That was
poor
always
woman.
important to me, so I always wanted both.
Poor woman, that this is the only father you could find for your children.
Oh, no, you're a good father.
Yeah, you've always been more maternal than me, but it would be weird if I was maternal.
It would, yeah. That's not
I
your
don't know.
nature.
I guess I was ignorant growing up of what parenting a child might bring to my life because I honestly don't mean to hurt your feeling, kids, but I never even thought about it before I met you. Then I noticed you starting to go in overdrive and crying when there was a baby in a TV commercial.
Yeah.
I remember that. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, but Shawn, remember, we were very young when we started dating. You were not quite 20.
That's right.
And I think it's
Way too young.
it's normal. Not always, of course. We're generalizing, but I think it's normal for that instinct to kick in later for men. Like I've heard a young
when you're
guy.
cramming for finals and realizing you're going to die and you need to establish some kind of eternal life, so you
I
leave
think-
behind your offspring.
I think
Spawn. You leave behind your spawn.
Wow. this is so touchy
The
feely.
spawn
I
of
don't know if
the
I can
spawn
handle
of
it.
Sean. I should make T-shirts for our kids. The spawn of Sean.
Yeah, they won't wear them.
No,
Don't bother.
you don't think so?
I'll answer for them.
All right. Yeah, Sean's spawn.
Oh dear.
I like it. I think it's got a certain ring to it. So obviously, I didn't have those instincts.
Right.
I guess maybe you're right. Maybe it would have kicked in later.
I think so. I've talked to a few guys, and a lot, but a few that have said, yeah, it wasn't really till like after 25 kind of that I was like, oh yeah, I would like to be a father. And then it becomes important to them. Or sometimes it kind of kicks in when you become a father.
I wonder that sometimes. If I weren't a father, if I weren't a father now and I'm about to become 35 years of age.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Again?
Yeah. No, I'm about to enter the 6th decade of life. Days from when you are listening to this broadcast.
Yeah.
If it's
Big
the original.
5-0.
If it's a rerun, big 5-0. But I'm thinking, if I weren't a father now, would I be looking, and there's no way to know this, but would I be looking back thinking, I wish I had become a dad, because now I don't want to do it and sort of send my kids to college when I'm 80.
I know I can say for very confidently that if for some reason we hadn't had children, I would regret that at this stage of life.
Yeah?
Very much.
Would you have pushed to adopt it then?
I think so. I think it would have been, I might have felt, because we always felt a call to ministry. And so if we hadn't been able to have children, I may have felt like, okay, God wants us to focus on our ministry, and our ministry is our baby.
Right.
But would I regret that already when I was at this stage, which is I'm a couple years behind you, but not far from 5-0? I think I would. Just because I love kids so much. I mean, that's my passion. That's why I do the kids program here. I love kids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess there's no way to know if you don't. It's funny. I'm watching our oldest, Natalie, and she's a lot like you. We each have among our children, we each have our twin. Right?
Yes.
And so you have a twin in her, and she's now the age that you were when I met you.
Which is funny,
Which is freaking me out, because what if she meets some guy this year? I don't like this at all. But
she has to
I asked her, I said, do you hope to have a family one day? And oh yeah, I said, why? Because, and it's just instinct at this point, because I love babies. And she gushed. And I said, and so what would happen if, for example, you met a man? I know that you pray that God will lead the right man to your life. I love that about our kids. They love and trust God. And she's saying, Lord, here's what I want in a husband. I want him to be godly. I want him to be this. I want him to love Jesus.
Definitely.
All those things. And she's praying about it. I said, but what if you find out that he can't have kids? What would be your plan? She says, oh, I would adopt. I got to have kids. So there it is. Overwhelming maternal instinct already at 19. The other one, I don't know. I haven't had a chance yet to pose the question to her.
She used to say she didn't want to have kids.
Yeah, but I saw her.
But that's changing.
I saw her when you were recording Discovery Mountain, and somebody wheeled a baby in, and I saw something go down.
Yeah, she just gushed all. Yeah. And she has changed. She has talked to me now about wanting to have children. So
no kidding.
That instinct kicked in for her at a different time. And we're all different. Not every woman wants to have kids. And I think we should say that too. Not every female wants to be a mother, and that's okay. You know, I think we have to, it's kind of sad that we still in today's day and age have to say that. But I think women who choose not to have children feel a little bit of, they don't feel accepted necessarily by society for that choice.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because I'm not sure that happens to guys. Guys don't have
totally
kids.
Different for men.
In nature, it's the male that eats the young. Yeah. So it's like not a big surprise. I learned that the hard way. I had rabbits as a kid and left the doe and the buck together in the pen when the babies were born, and I discovered something very bad about men. I did. So tell me, from a mother's perspective, though, what was it like for you? And you and I were conscientious about it. We were actually married 5 or 6 years before we had kids. We wanted to,
and we planned that before we ever got married.
We prayed about it. We wanted to have a down payment together for a home before we had a baby. We wanted to make sure that our ministry was established before we had a baby. But then came the time, well, let's try. So we tried, and apparently we're really good at this, because bang, now suddenly the test is positive. So I'm curious now, looking back 20 years, what do you remember about the day you found out, and what was going on in your heart and mind?
About the actual day. Well, interesting. You have so many reactions. I mean, absolutely elated. But what's really special, and I was sharing this with the girls the other day, I don't even know if you remember this, Shawn, but of course we did the pregnancy test, and you and I were working together at It Is Written Canada at that time. And we did the pregnancy test, and so you and I both knew this special little secret, and we didn't tell anyone for quite a while, and that was really special. I feel like I'm going to tear up. We had this special secret, and you and I didn't tell anybody, and just going to work knowing that, wow, we're going to have a child.
You are tearing up.
That was awesome. I am tearing up. That was so special. And then terrifying. For some reason, you have a lot of irrational fears. Probably it's all the hormones, but irrational thoughts and stuff when you're expecting. And for some reason, I fixated on the fact of how many recipes I knew how to cook and how many I didn't know how to cook.
Oh, you were a marvelous cook from the day I met you.
No, I thought, okay.
Do you remember the lentils loaf?
Oh,
do you remember the lentil loaf?
That was awful. Yeah. But I And I've cooked so much more since we've had kids. But before we had kids, it was just you and I. We were pretty casual. And so I had this idea that, okay, before the baby's born, I have to perfect, not just learn. I had to perfect like this whole list of recipes. And it was just completely irrational.
I don't
never
remember
did
this.
it. But no, it's just this mental thing. It's just this mental, like I can't be
That's
a parent.
what you were worried about when you
it's
found out you were
ridiculous.
expecting.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Along with all the other stuff.
Do you know what
like,
I
will
was
the baby
thinking?
be healthy and all those things?
Do you know what I was thinking?
Can we pay for this?
How am I going to afford a kid?
I know.
Because, I could barely make the mortgage payment. There was no money left over, and we're going to bring another hungry mouth into this place. I don't know if that's a typical male reaction. It's like, how am I going to feed this kid? Oh, Ruben, you've got a couple of kids. Did that go through your mind when you found out you were expecting? Yeah, like, how am I going to pay for a baby? Yeah. Because one thing happens is that your wife comes off the job market for a while.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah, so I was freaking out, and I was probably freaking out about how am I supposed to be a father? And at this point I'm 30.
Yeah, you were 30 when
29 or 30
Nat was born.
Yeah, so I was probably 29, and men really don't grow up ever, And I think though that I was particularly. I'll come home whenever I want, and I'll eat whatever I want, whenever I feel like it. Although after about 24, you can't just eat what you want without any consequence.
You pay the price.
Oh, yeah. True. No. You can watch the numbers go up on the scale, and it's like, oh, I guess I can't do that anymore. But there was something about finding out I have a child, and I'm thinking, have I grown up? Am I an adult? Because
can I do this?
A child needs an adult. If I were this child and knew that I was the father and knew anything about me, I'd be freaking out.
Yeah.
It's like, this is in charge of me?
And you don't. And what's neat from now, this perspective, 20 years later, you realize we're all like that when we're first parents, including our own parents were that way.
Isn't that disturbing? Isn't that disturbing?
It's disturbing, but it's comforting as well.
No, I don't know.
We're all in the same boat.
I look back thinking my life was in their hands, and they knew as little as I did.
I know.
And they didn't even have Google to look up, like, what do you do when you drop the baby? And
Your mom was a nurse.
I suspect. Oh, no, she was a nurse. That's true. I suspect I got dropped on my head a few times. I think that would explain some things. But I think that was my first reaction. Am I an adult?
I know.
Am I adult enough? And beyond that, suddenly, whether or not I have a genuine relationship with Christ matters, because I'm responsible for this life coming into this world, and I know that God would like me to take that child and put that child in His hands at some point and lead them to Him. And I'm thinking, my goodness, a father in many ways represents God to a child in their earliest formative years, because they learn about God, but in their mind they're looking at Daddy. As a matter of fact, I used to think, because Dad had a beard and curly hair, I would flip through a book that had Bible stories, and I would see a beard and curly hair, and the artist probably meant Peter the disciple, but I'm thinking that must be God the Father.
Oh, because
that must be God, because it looks like your
really
dad.
Sweet.
So that freaks you out as a parent. Am I worthy to represent God and His love and His majesty to this little bitty child? That freaked me out, and it made me get a little more serious about my relationship with God. There's the music.
I'd agree.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that freaks me out. They start playing the music, and I'm thinking, can I really wrap this up by the time that the commercial break comes?
You can. You always do.
I always do. I land right on it. Go grab pen and paper, or jump on your laptop. You want to take advantages from these amazing, amazing offers from the people at the Voice of Prophecy. When we come back, parenting, the agony, and the ecstasy.
Disclosure is just one of the programs brought to you by the Voice of Prophecy, like the audio adventure program Discovery Mountain. Discovery Mountain is a weekly Bible-based program for kids of all ages and backgrounds. Your family will enjoy faith-building stories with Jake Donovan, Mr. Simon, and others in this small mountain town. Each summer, campers visit Discovery Mountain, where they sing songs, learn about God, and reenact a Bible story with the help of drama teachers Miss Wendy and Miss Tamara. With 24 full episodes every year and programming every week, your family will have something uplifting to listen to every week. Listen to episodes on demand and watch video features from Director Doug at discoverymountain.com or on your favorite podcast platform. That's discoverymountain.com.
back from the break, which means it is time for me to behave like an adult yet again.
Or try.
Now, I have 30 seconds in which to indulge my inner 13-year-old, and
There
you
you
know
go.
that every man is 13 in his heart. It doesn't matter. You could be 60 years old, but you all know that you are 13 in your heart, and men never quite grow up. True or false?
From my experience, I would say that's true.
Yeah, I think it's actually becoming epidemic and probably becoming an issue in society that we never grow up and act like men. But I mean that the boys never lose interest in toys, right? And unfortunately, boys' toys are more expensive than girls' toys because
Definitely.
you might want new knitting needles and I want a car.
Yeah.
Or I want a golf club membership. I hate golf. That's just a random example. I'm not good at golf. But we're talking about parenting, the agony and the ecstasy, because I think you get both. You get the highs and the lows as you're raising kids. And Jean and I are sitting down today and just going over the last 20 years because we are just about empty nest. We were empty nest for a little bit. One of our kids went to a boarding academy, and suddenly I was free to streak in the house.
There was 1 year where one was at college and one was at boarding academy.
Yeah,
True.
and so I could walk around in my underwear again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got to remember when the doorbell rings, you're in your underwear. Do not answer the door. Yeah. So we started at early childhood. You know that you're expecting. I'm freaking out. You're freaking out about I had no idea that you were freaking out about whether or not you'd be able to cook for your kids.
It's just, it happens sometimes, particularly for me, when I'm anxious about a very broad kind of a thing. Like I fixate on one little thing. And I feel like if I can do that one thing, if I can control that one thing, then it gives me this false illusion of control. And that's what was happening. I'm just anxious about being a mother.
It's kind of like when I get anxious, I find one thing on the list, and if I can get the one thing done, I rest about the other 19.
And then you kind of feel better. Like you can actually have a sense of accomplishment. Anyway.
Remember the book we bought?
Yeah, What to Expect When You're Expecting. That's still out there.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see Ruben nodding his head.
Yeah.
Do you have What to Expect When You're Expecting? Yeah. Okay, both of you. I know you have a mic out there, Ruben. How useful did you find that book?
Well, I think I thought it was useful at first. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It seemed very useful before the baby arrived. And then afterwards, it was like, you know what it was like? It was like I don't mean any disrespect to the author of the book or anything like that. I think that what happens is you read the stuff and you think you know what you're talking about now. And then when the baby arrives, you realize you didn't have a clue what you were talking about.
It's
kind of
totally
like
true.
Lamaze classes. Remember going to those?
Useless
breathe
in the
in,
moment.
breathe out, breathe in. All right, we got this mastered, baby. We're going to go to the hospital and you're going to have a pain-free delivery. I will be your coach. And then you get in there and it is a horror show. There are nurses and there's the smell of anesthetic and there's blood and there's a wife who is not happy and there's a lot of pain. And frankly, I can't deal with childbirth.
No,
I can't.
You're not that helpful.
No,
in the actual
I'm pretty good at a
moment.
lot of things. I think I would be better with a disemboweling than I would be with a childbirth. Because I remember I missed the first one. I was on
Yes, you
assignment and I missed the first one.
She was born early.
Yeah. So I came on time for the second one, but the minute the baby's head showed, I had to sit down.
Yeah, you were like taking all the attention of the doctor and the nurses.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Mr. Benster, are you
"Hello."
okay? Are you okay? I'm turning green. I'm going to get sick. I actually dropped out of pre-med because they showed us a childbirth film, and I thought, I can't do this the rest of my life. There's not a chance that I could deliver a baby. So, I don't know. The Lamaze class, I'm going to be great in there. It's a horror show, and the breathing's gone. You threw the breathing out the window, and we're going to have a drug-free birth. No, I want my pain meds.
Well, they gave me this is. Wow, we're really going off topic.
No,
here, but-
not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Well, with Natalie's birth, right, you weren't there because Natalie was born early. Your mom was with me.
Yeah.
And so it was all a little overwhelming because it was too soon. It was only 2 weeks too soon. She was fine, but it was too soon. And so they gave me, the nurses told me that I would be in labor for 12 hours. And I was already in a lot of pain at that point. So I agreed to take the drugs they gave me. But I'm a small person who doesn't normally take medication ever. And so they gave me too much medication. I was literally falling asleep between contractions when she was born like 4 hours later, not 12. Wow. And so with the second child, I said, I don't want any drugs. And then I made it almost to the end, and then I said, please, can I have drugs? And they told me it was too late. So
Oh, no.
remember that?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I think you should read the books. I don't know if Ruben agrees or not, but I think read the books, but understand that you really don't have a clue what they're describing till that baby lands in your house.
But what's good about those books is you do have a lot of anxiety and unanswered questions, and reading the book makes you feel prepared, even if it doesn't necessarily help you with everything when they're born. It does help. It helps you feel like you have some knowledge, and the books are there for a reason.
Is this normal is the best question those books could answer. Is this normal? Because you're pretty sure your kid's not normal. Well, at least I'm pretty sure my kid's not normal when they arrive in the world, and suddenly they, you catch them because I carelessly left some Kleenex box out on the floor, and there the baby's eating Kleenex, and I'm freaking out like, can you die from eating a Kleenex? I don't know, man. Is this normal?
Yeah.
What are your favorite memories? We're Christian parents, or we tried to be Christian parents. Although I think having kids will test the limits of your Christianity some days. No, let's be honest. I like being transparent.
That's for sure. It sure does test your patience.
Well, it tested my Christian principles on more than one occasion. It's like, am I as good a follower of Christ as I think I am? We'll come to that in a minute, but let's start with early memories. What are your earliest memories, favorite early memories of a kid and being a parent?
So many. How to pick? Well, let me pick one for each girl. So Natalie's laugh, her first laugh. She was, I can't remember how old she was. It's written in a book somewhere, maybe 3-ish months. But you were at work and you were picking us up to take us somewhere. And I had her all dressed in her little snowsuit thing. And we were sitting in the front entryway of our little townhouse, and we were waiting for you to come pick us up. And I was singing to her, which I don't sing, so that would have been amusing right there. But I was bouncing her up and down, trying to keep her happy till you got home. And all of a sudden, she laughed. And I will never forget that moment. I just kept bouncing her like, please let her laugh again and again and again. So that's a favorite memory. And then with Naomi, it's kind of a funny memory, which suits her because she was a funny kid. But she was less than a year old, and she was toddling around. No, so she was a little over a year old because she was toddling around, but she couldn't really speak full sentences yet. But do you remember this? She had her own language. It was complete gibberish, but she would have a whole conversation with you in gibberish language. And I had a picture on the end table of you, because you traveled already back then, and for some reason I had a picture there of you, and I would say to her, Naomi, where's Daddy? And in her full gibberish, she would walk over to the end table, pick up the picture, show it to me, and have a complete conversation with me that made no sense whatsoever.
No kidding.
That was so cute.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't know, maybe it's accomplishment, goal-driven stuff for guys. I don't know. I guess one of the reasons I like looking back together is because I'm trying to assess, what didn't I know then? And what's the difference between guys and gals, and for Christians and kids and stuff? But maybe these are more masculine oriented. For Natalie, it was her persistence. We had her on her back or belly on a blanket, and she was trying to roll over and couldn't do it.
I remember that.
She couldn't do it. And I thought, oh, well, there you go. She can't roll over. But she would not quit until she could.
Yep.
And I sat there beaming as a father. She kept going and trying, and it must have been 40 minutes.
Yep.
40 minutes later, she finally rolls over, and there's this look of baby satisfaction on her face where I'm thinking, you did it. You set a goal, and she's just rolling over, for crying out sideways. But the father in me goes, you're going to be fine in life because you will keep going until you get
can
there.
Do it.
Yeah. With Naomi, it was your mom holding her under a year of age. And I watched, and she was deliberately trying to make your mother laugh by making faces under a year of age. And I thought, this kid, I'm beaming. I was like, this kid knows how to control a room already. She knows how to, she will be fine. She's probably going to go into sales. And what do you know?
True.
She's a good salesperson. Yeah. So those things, but those are goal oriented. I guess I'm looking at it like, are these kids going to make it in life? Because I feel really responsible before God to make sure that when my kids go out the door, they are ready to take on the real world.
Do you remember? Here's another Naomi memory. I remember this. One day, you and she were reading, and she started reading to you. And neither of us knew that she could read. And you came down to get me from the kitchen, and you were beaming. You're like, did you know your daughter can read? And I said, she can? You said, yeah, she can read. And you were so proud of her. It was in California. She was, it was before she started kindergarten. And somehow she had just picked up reading on her own. And you were so proud of her.
I guess I would be, because
Yeah.
I can't even read. I mean, I don't even know if she was reading accurately because I can't even make out the little words. What were your fears? What was your worst fear when you realized you'd brought a child into the world?
Wow. In the beginning, you just seemed to worry about everything, like you described. They ate Kleenex. Like, are they going to die from that? What?
I remember our daughter sticking her
remember
tongue
that,
out,
which is
and there's
funny.
half-dissolved tissue on her tongue, and I'm
Which
thinking,
kid?
Gina's going to kill me. I think
don't
it was
even
Naomi.
remember.
She sticks her tongue out, and there's like, oh my word, there's a Kleenex in there. Jean's going to kill me if she chokes on this. How much did she swallow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like every little temperature. You look up the information. How high is too dangerous? When do I need to go to the doctor? Like all those things you worry about. But, and then as they get older, you kind of get used to all that routine stuff and you feel like you know what you're doing.
The next kid, you don't care as much.
The next, hey,
Well,
you're more relaxed.
It looks that way, but you're not
You're more
freaking out
relaxed.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then, the bad stuff does happen. And a kid needs surgery,
Yeah.
One of our kids has had a couple of surgeries.
Yeah.
And then a kid has a genuine emotional crisis and you deal with it. And then I think that's where you realize where your priorities are in life and what is scary. Things like traveling by myself or being in the dark, things that when we were first married made me feel nervous or anxious. It's like that stuff is nothing. The real scary things in life are like, letting a doctor take your kid into surgery and give them general anesthetic.
Yeah, I remember
That's
that.
scary.
It's at that point where I really learned something about prayer. It's because you watch them wheel your kid away, and it's out of your control at that point. And I'm thinking, Lord, I just put my kid in the doctor's hands, but I really need that kid to be in your hands. Please go in there. I'm not allowed in there with my child. Or there was one place, though, our daughter had to have surgery, and big kudos to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. They had me go in with her. I didn't like it. I stayed there till she went under the anesthetic, which I didn't particularly like.
No.
But I was the last face she saw and the first face she saw when she came to. So big kudos to them. Mm-hmm. But as a parent, I'm thinking, man, learning to trust somebody else with my child. This doctor is younger than me.
Right.
This doctor, how many years have you been out of med school? And it's like, Lord, this isn't really my child in the first place. This has always been your child. And so I need to learn that you are in control and that you will be in that operating theater and that you love this child more than I don't even understand how it's possible that you could love this child more than I do. But you do, Lord. And so I'm going to sit out here and I'm going to learn some faith. I'm going to learn that I can leave this with you regardless of what happens today. And that's a tough moment because God gives you something you love more than anything in the world. And it's like almost like Abraham and Isaac. Can you give it back to me?
Yeah.
Can you give
it
this
is.
child back to me?
And, nothing in this life has grown my faith more than the difficult times in parenting.
Yeah.
It really has.
Yeah.
It's not like it's easy. It's the difficult ones that stretch you and grow you. And as you just described, they grow your faith.
Yep. Okay, we got to take a break. I hear the music playing. And so we're going to take a little break, come back and talk about parenting as Christians, the agony, and the ecstasy. You're listening to Disclosure from the Voice of Prophecy. We will be right back after this.
As you may know, the Voice of Prophecy is supported by people just like you. We provide Christ-centered programs and Bible studies free of charge so that no one is left out. If you've been blessed by these programs and would like to pay it forward, we invite you to visit vop.com/give to make your tax-deductible donation. We're equipping the world for Christ to come, and your support will make a direct impact on so many lives. That's vop.com/give.
Earthquakes, tornadoes, wildfires. Around us, homes are being lost, lives are threatened, and some people are asking the question, does God even care about me? The Bible answers that question, and what it says is very encouraging. Find out what God says regarding this topic and some of life's greatest issues in our free Discover Bible Guides. Go to VOP.com and click on Study, or call us 888-456-7933.
Christian Parenting, the Agony and the Ecstasy. I am in studio with the Ecstasy, my wife, and I am the Agony. I am the Agony in this formula.
You're the agony
And
to
you-
my ecstasy.
Yeah, you are the ecstasy in our marriage, and I am the agony.
Yeah, I don't
but
think so.
I think it's true, right? I think going in, you're unaware of what this is going to be like, what it's going to teach you, what the highs and lows are going to feel like, and we're not quite done yet. Who knows what's still coming?
Yeah.
One of the ones that crosses my mind is, well, let me come to that in a minute. Biggest fears today, but biggest fears when we got started. Again, I think I've already said this, but who am I to parent a child? Because in my mind, I know that I am in that child's mind God. And I don't want to be misunderstood here. I don't believe I'm God. I don't believe I'm... But the child, you're going to teach the child about God, and they're going to compare God to you. That weighed heavy on me. How godly am I? And what if I get hyper strict? You see these homes where the parents try to make sure that their kids are so godly and that the home is so godly that there's no fun, there's no smiles, they have a bad interpretation of what godliness is. And I don't want to end up like some of those families you see in the news where the kids are, And I don't know, that weighed heavy on me. How can I represent God to this little child? Why would God trust me with this kid? How do I know if the kid's healthy? That one bugged me. I remember I thought that when Natalie was born, oh man, she's got a misaligned jaw. It wasn't true. It was kind of a birth thing, and it's straight out, and it's no longer there. But I have an asymmetrical jaw, and so I'm thinking, I just passed that on to my kid. You don't believe I have an asymmetrical. Look at my last 5 passport photos. One side of my face is smaller than the other.
None of us is perfectly
And I have the world's
symmetrical.
most gigantic head.
No, you don't.
Oh, yeah. No, I have a
You
giant...
do have a big head, though.
I have a giant head. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
even... I have to buy XXL baseball caps.
Yeah, one size fits all does not fit all.
No. I have to wear a one-size-fits-all like a yarmulke. It sits up
Yeah,
on
you
top.
do.
I can't get it down over my fat head. Fortunately,
Oh, dear.
neither of our children, one of them had a larger head, but it wasn't so big that it was freakish like mine. And again, I think, how am I going to pay for all this? I know that crossed my mind because I'm on the hook to provide. I am on the hook to provide for my family, and I want to be a provider. But how am I going to pull this off? So fast forward 20 years. What are your worst fears now?
Now. Well, as you described, parenting, just because we've got one off at college, it's not like I don't think about her and worry about her. It's just changed. So my biggest fears right now are that our kids will, not that I think they won't, but my biggest fear is that they be happy, that they find their person in life and they have a successful career and they have a family and they have someone who loves them. I want that so much for them. And as I want that for them and they want that, that's the next step in their life. That's natural. My fear is, okay, am I ready to become second in their life? Because that's
You're not.
What has to happen.
I say you are not quite there. I say you're not quite there.
I know I'm not
It's
quite
bothering
there.
you, isn't it? Their
Well-
independence is bothering you a little.
A little,
Because
yeah.
they don't need a mommy anymore.
They don't. And the occasional times that they do, I love it. I'll admit it. But see, so while I want that for them, I know their spouse, their husband, because we have 2 girls, their husband has to become the number one person in their life. That's how healthy marriages operate. And we will be secondary. And so
See, and I
half
want
of me
that.
wants that,
I
and
want
half
that.
of me is like, can I handle that?
No, I'm ready.
Can
I'm
I be
totally-
second?
I'm totes ready for that.
Yeah, I know
because
you
I'm
are.
goal oriented. In my mind is, can I deliver a successful adult to the world? And so I know you struggled to let go. It bothered you the day you got demoted from mommy to mom.
Yeah.
Really bothered you. But you know what's great about it?
You're still daddy.
I'm still daddy.
I know.
Yeah, I know. She's 20 years old and I'm still daddy, and you got demoted. But
Look at the glee on your face when you say that.
no, I know. I'm daddy forever, which is great. My big fear, one of them is still, how the heck am I going to pay for all this?
Yeah,
That's still, because now we're coming up on
Weddings.
and I can't afford a wedding. I know I can't. I know that, people assume if you're in ministry on air, you're probably, in this day and age, everybody's a wealthy televangelist. No. No, we basically took a vow of poverty and we give our money to the Lord if we have some. How am I going to pay for it? But I
know.
think
I know
I
you
think
worry
the
about
biggest fear in the back of my mind also is, did I do it? My job was to deliver. My job, men are probably wired this way a little more. I'm generalizing, but our job is to push them out of the nest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel accomplishment, when I've pushed them out of the nest. Quit depending on mommy. Figure this out for yourself. And when they figure out something for themselves, men are ecstatic.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are at the finish line, and my big fear is, did I do it right? Did I teach them to face the world? Did I prepare them well enough? And it's stupid little things. Like when I realize that one of my kids doesn't really understand how the internal combustion engine works, it's like, oh my goodness, what are you going to do? How will you even know if your car's breaking down on the side of the road and you're going to be alone in the middle of nowhere? And did your father prepare you for changing a tire? Did your father? And it's silly little things like that, but I've got this anxiety. I know it's God's child. It was always God's child. From the day they arrived in our home, it was God's child, and my job is to give them back to God. Here, I've taught them about you. And I worry about that one too. Did I teach my children enough about what God is really like and underline the differences between their father and God? Because, of course, as kids get older, they realize that their parents are not God.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
and
they see our
they're also
flaws.
very good at finding your flaws. They're better than anybody else.
Pushing your buttons.
Yeah, they know where all your buttons are, better than anyone on earth, and they have a gift for bringing out your most humiliating traits in front of people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I see Ruben laughing, but they just have this gift for humiliating you.
Yeah.
All been good, but what were your biggest fears about yourself?
Starting parenting?
Yeah. Or the whole adventure along the way. I mean, we've talked about our fears for our children. That's natural. What were your fears about you? I kind of talked about some of mine, but...
Well, always, am I good enough? Can I do this? Did I do enough? Did I do too much? Did I... and you can second guess yourself forever. But, and I always, and I think every mom is like this to a degree, I never felt like I was good enough or I was a good enough mom or did enough of the right things when they were young. But it's been pretty liberating now that they're basically both adults. The little one's not quite an adult, but she's
Right.
basically an adult. To have conversations with them and hear their perspective of their childhood and have them tell me, Mom, you always made us healthy meals. Thank you. Or Mom, you did this. Thank you. And they both say, oh, I can't wait to be a mom like you, and I love you. And they say they admire you.
Wait a minute.
It's
I don't get
amazing.
Thank you, Dad, for coming down on us.
Yes,
because,
you do. Yes, you do.
Oh, actually,
You do.
Yeah, one of them
Natalie's
told me,
grad, she said
thank you for kicking my butt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girls.
And that's
Yeah, that's kind of rewarding because you feel like an ogre when you are kicking butt, but fathers probably do that more, come down on their kids, and then you feel bad for
Generally.
them and go and hug them after I yelled at them.
well, generally, it's not always the case.
How's
but
Ruben
it's
laughing?
usually
No,
one,
that's the way it
one
goes.
parent's
Yeah.
tougher than the other
Oh
normally.
no,
But
and you're much tougher. No,
Yeah,
you
I'm
are the
much tougher.
no, you're the
No.
pushover in our house.
yeah, generally.
If they
Yeah.
can't get something out of me, they ply you because you're going to fold.
That's why if they get a firm no from me, they usually give up because they know, because I don't usually say it. But I would just say, Shawn, to our listeners who have little kids at home and are feeling like they're not doing enough and they're not doing it right and they're everything, just stay with it. Your kids are going to remember the good stuff. And you probably are doing 98% right. None of us is perfect. And just be encouraged. When your kids get older, you'll hear about those good
God
things
blessed you
from
with-
their perspective.
God did bless you with some intuition. It is remarkable how often you get it right in your blind ignorance. I think God wired us for this.
Yeah, he does.
He
He
gives you the
helps
desire
us.
to want to have those kids. He gives you the desire to do well by them and not eat your young like an animal, right? Just he wants you to do well. What did it teach you about God?
Parenting. How difficult it is. It's difficult for me as a parent to see my children exercise their free will. Particularly, and this has been different at every age and every phase. But when you see, they have to exercise their free will. I mean, they're humans, they're not robots. But when you see them doing things that you know are wrong and you know they should do it this way and they know they should do it a different way, sometimes you have to intervene, of course, especially when they're young. And as they get older, you can't intervene as much. And that's really, really hard. And it just has given me so much perspective on what it's like for God.
God doesn't block our bad decisions.
He sees us doing all this dumb stuff. And the reason he wants us not to do it is because he sees how we're hurting ourselves, and he loves us so much. He doesn't want us to hurt ourselves. And it's really given me a lot of perspective on how God sees us, his children. We are his children.
I can think of a few. Now, here's from a dad's side. I think I have learned, at least to some tiny degree, how frustrated God must feel when I think I get it, but I don't. When
Right.
a kid goes, Dad, I don't need to be told again. I understand.
Yeah.
I won't say
You're
which
like,
child did it.
no.
I can back the car out of the garage, Dad, and then bang, a mirror's off the side of the car. And I
Yeah,
wondered,
no
how
names
often
mentioned.
how often have I done that to God?
Exactly.
I got it from here, God. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to be told again. And then you go out and make a mess out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have caught a glimpse of how God must feel when I roll my eyes at his guidelines. Okay,
Yeah.
I know the Bible says this, but really, in my case, and you kind of roll your eyes at God. And now as a dad, I've had the eye roll, and I realize, oh my goodness, how God must feel. This one too. How does he feel when he knows something I'm doing is not in my best interests? And he's tempted to spare me the consequences of my actions, because I'm tempted. I'm watching my kids do something dumb, and I know that our kids aren't that dumb, but, I'm just speaking colloquialism.
Sure.
They're about to do something that isn't the wisest thing in the world. And I have a choice. I can stop them from doing it, or I can let the chips fall where they may and let them reap the consequences of that bad decision now while they're in my home under my supervision, so that we can talk about it. And the urge, my kids won't even believe that I have this urge, the urge to spare your kids the consequences of their decisions is overwhelming.
It really is.
And so is it overwhelming for God to try and spare me the consequences of my decision? How hard is it for him to pull the trigger? You see God pleading with Israel again and again and again, please don't do this. Don't you understand what kind of pain this is going to cause? And then he lets them go through it, and Babylon comes and takes over and takes them captive, and he lets it happen.
And he weeps.
Yeah.
As we do. I've many times, cried as a mother over situations like you just described.
Yeah. Favorite Bible passage. We only have 2 minutes. Favorite Bible passage as the kids were growing up. Do you have one? Do you have one that meant something to you?
So I have one. Jeremiah 29:11 is my favorite verse, and it's a verse I've claimed for my children, and it's a verse I've claimed for myself and for my family. But when I think of the faith, one thing that I pray I do not fail on, is transferring my faith to my children. And there's a favorite verse in 2 Timothy. It's Paul talking about Timothy, the young man. And he says, I thank God, whom I serve with a pure conscience, as my forefathers did, as without ceasing I remember you in my prayers night and day, greatly desiring to see you. This is Paul talking about Timothy. Being mindful of your tears, that I may be filled with joy, when I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded is in you also. And my prayer would be that the faith that is in me would also be in my daughters.
I'm pretty. Yours is all well thought out and beautiful. Mine is so. Proverbs 22: train up a child in the way they should go. But I picked the most mundane, hackneyed verse, I guess. But I'm banking on that truth. I've discovered that as I get older, things that were important when I was little are off-the-shelf example. I'm suddenly finding that my Dutch culture, I'm the son of Dutch immigrants, suddenly really important to me later in life. And it wasn't all along the way. And I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm clinging to that promise that if we put the love of God in our children now, no matter what happens along the way, that they will seek him when I'm no longer on this earth. When I'm gone, will they seek God for their answers? And I'm banking on that one as a promise. We should probably pick this up again at some point and talk about this, because I didn't even touch some of the things that I wanted to talk about parenting. 20 years is a lot of schooling by children.
A lot of time.
And so, but we have to end because I hear the music playing and they're just going to go dead on air if I don't stop talking. And so why don't we wrap it up like this? Visit voiceofprophecy.com for more of our resources. Try BibleInfo.com if you want to find more Bible answers. And thanks for joining us this week. I'm Shawn Boonstra.